Good evening, everyone. My name is Irene Grace R. Ambahan, and we are the Group 3 to discuss to you about authentic assessment in affective domain. So, at the end of our lesson, the students will be able to know what is affective domain, what are the affective targets, and the appropriate affective methods, and lastly, they are going to learn how to appreciate affective domain in learning. So, as a short review, we all know that affective domain it is one of the three domain in Bloom's taxonomy, where it is our way to deal with external and internal phenomenon emotionally, where we have the ability to listen to others and of course to respond to them. The first affective target that we are going to discuss is about attitude. So when we say attitude, this is how we react on situations or certain people. Usually we define attitude as a reflection of our behavior. There are 5 levels of attitude. Number 1, we have receiving, where the learner is willing to pay attention and listen with respect. Number 2, we have responding, where the learner actively participates and responds. Number 3, we have valuing, where the learner gives values on people, on institutions, or in behavior. Number 4, we have organization, where the learner prioritizes values and resolves conflict. Number 5, we have internalizing value, where the learner, his value system was being internalized, where she or he knows how to control his, her, or own behavior. The second effective targets that we have is motivation. This refers to the energy and drive to learn, and of course to achieve our potentials. It is marked by our persistence in having a goal-oriented behavior. The effective targets that we have is interest. This refers to our preferences of certain kinds of activities. And of course, as a future educator and teacher, we need to focus on our students' interests, because if we know how to pick their interests, they are going to engage in our learning, and of course, they will be able to actively participate, and the topic that we are going to choose will be relatable to them. So that would be all for my report, and thank you so much for listening.
Hello, my name is Cris, and today I'll be discussing to you the other 3 effective learning targets. So first, we have values. Values help students think from others' perspective and help others. It might also help them to know their purpose in life and what good things they need to do for others in society. Moral values help people to be more selfless and put the needs of others before themselves. Moral values are personality traits that guide us to make judgments and decisions based on what we think is right or wrong. So as a teacher, it is very important to teach students good moral values because first, it builds their character. Knowing good moral values such as kindness, humility, courage, and compassion at an early age builds a child's character. It forms the very core of their being and becomes a foundation of their moral beliefs. Second, it helps them tell right from wrong. Also, it changes their perception about the world. Because when children can tell what is right from wrong, they can also determine the good from bad. And this helps shape their perception about the world. Next one, we have self-concept. Self-concept is a general term used to refer to how someone thinks about, evaluates, or perceives themselves. To be aware of oneself is to have a concept of oneself. According to Baumeister 1999, self-concept is individual's belief about himself or herself. including the person's attributes and who and what the self is. So, self-concept is students' way of seeing and thinking about themselves. So when a student knows and understands herself, her strengths, struggles, and style, she or he is able to seek help, feel confident, and succeed as a thinker and learner. The self-concept is, of course, one of many factors that affect managerial thinking, feeling, and behavior, but is undoubtedly one of the most powerful influences on many important behaviors. So when students have low self-esteem or lack of confidence, meaning it leaves the student to doubt their ability to succeed, making them hesitant to engage in learning or take appropriate academic growth risks. However, when positive academic self-concept facilitates positive academic perspectives and behaviors such as persistence in academic tasks, positive academic choices, educational aspiration, and academic achievement. And now let's proceed to the locus of control. It refers to an individual's perception about the underlying main causes of event in his or her life. It refers to how students perceive the causes of their academic success or failure in school. And students with an internal locus of control generally believe that their success or failure is a result of the effort and hard work they invest in their education. There are two types of locus of control, the internal and external. Internal refers to students believe that they are responsible for their own success. So, students with an internal locus of control, they believe that their success or failure is a result of the effort and hard work they invest in their education. However, in external locus of control, it is where students believe that external forces, like luck, determine their outcome.
Hi everyone, I am Mhea Balansa, and in this part of the video, I will discuss to you about self-efficacy, anxiety, and creativity. First, let us define what is self-efficacy. A person's self-efficacy is their confidence in their capacity to carry out an activity or accomplish a goal. It includes a person's self-belief in their ability to exercise control over their actions, affect their surroundings, and remain energized in the pursuit of their objective. People can have self-efficacy in a variety of circumstances and domains, including work, school, relationships, and other crucial areas. According to Bandura, there are four main sources of self-efficacy beliefs. First is the mastery experiences, second is the vicarious experiences, third is the verbal persuasion, and fourth is the emotional and physiological states. The experiences we receive when we successfully take on a new challenge are referred to as mastery experiences. The most effective way to learn a skill or enhance our performance is through practice. In part, this is because we are teaching ourselves that we are capable of learning new skills. The simple definition of a vicarious experience is having a role model to follow and imitate. When we are exposed to positive role models who exhibit a healthy level of self-efficacy, we are more likely to adopt some of those optimistic self-beliefs. The verbal persuasion factor describes the positive impact that our words can have on someone's self-efficacy. Last but not the least, emotional and physiological states speak to how crucial context and general health and well-being are to growth and maintenance of self-efficacy. It's challenging to maintain a healthy level of wellness when you are dealing with anxiety, depression, or a major medical condition. While it's not impossible, it is unquestionably a lot simpler to increase your self-efficacy when you are healthy and well. A sensation of worry, dread, and unease is known as anxiety. You can start to perspire, become agitated and anxious, and experience rapid heartbeat. It can be a typical response to stress. You might have anxiety, for instance, when confronted with a challenging challenge at work, before taking a test, or before making a crucial decision. Some of the ways anxiety can impact a student at school. First, difficulty in taking information. Students who are overly anxious may find it difficult to focus on what has to be learned. As a result of the student's worries taking up so much mental space, they are unable to focus on other tasks quickly and effectively. Second, information is not processed properly. Even if nervous students are able to pay attention in class, it is frequently only on a surface level as a result of anxiety overtaxing their cognitive functions. They don't use what they've already learned as they take in new knowledge, thus, earlier learning isn't elaborated upon or developed in a rewarding way. Students frequently have insufficient knowledge in a certain field due to their sporadic attention and concentration. Third, information is not stored or consolidated in long-term memory. New knowledge won't be properly preserved if it isn't being expanded upon. Students could experience difficulties retrieving knowledge from long-term memory as a result. Even though they studied and knew the material the night before, a student may not perform well on exams if they are unable to recollect previously taught material. As a result, students could experience test anxiety, which further hinders their capacity to access knowledge. The definition of creativity is the tendency to come up with or identify concepts, options, or possibilities that may be helpful in resolving issues, interacting with people, and amusing oneself and others.
So good day everyone, I am Ambahan with Cabanus, and today we will talk about the epistemological beliefs in the affective domain. So when we say epistemology, it is like the origin of something, how belief is constructed. It describes the individual, the representation of their beliefs about knowledge and knowing their behaviors and attitudes towards issues. It describes also beliefs about how knowledge is acquired. It justifies the structure and source of information, and more generally, how learning process unfolds. For example, if you have a family dinner and together you pray before eating, because that is your traditional way of having a dinner together, it affects your or influences your decision-making skill, and you think whether you join them pray or don't. Let us proceed to the next topic. So these are the common types of appropriateness of assessment methods. So written response instruments, this includes the objective test like multiple choice, true or false, matching types, or short answer test, including the essays, examinations, and also the checklist. So we have two. So the first is the objective test, and the second is the essay, or what we call the subjective type of test. So for the objective test, the appropriate for the various level of the hierarchy of educational objective. It is like giving an objective test, like for example, multiple choice, and also the essay or the subjective type of test, when properly planned, can test the students' grasp of high-level cognitive skills, particularly in areas of application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. It tests their emotional response towards the topic. Unlike the objective test, it measures their intelligence on how they master the topic. Next is the product rating scale. So these scales measures the products that are frequently rated in education, such as book reports, maps, charts, diagrams, notebooks, essays, and creative endeavors of all sorts. It is like rating the work of all of your students. Is it good? Is it outstanding? Or very poor? So another example is when you walk into a restaurant and they will give you a survey about their food, if it is delicious or needs improvement or beyond repairable. The next is the performance test. One of these is the performance checklist, which consists of the list of behaviors that makes up a certain type of performance. It is like a journal that consists of a behavior of students, whether they perform enough or they need to improve. For example, in a classroom situation, teacher Sophia gave a checklist to the students if they feel sick or not, so that they could identify who amongst them have the virus. So they check the box that corresponds their feelings. So the fourth is the oral questioning. It is an appropriate assessment methods when the objectives are: first, to identify the student's stock knowledge, and second is to determine the student's ability to communicate ideas in a coherent verbal sentence. So things that are need to consider when we have an oral questioning. So first is the state of mind, the feelings, the anxiety, and the nervousness. So for example, at the beginning of the school year and first day of the class, teacher Dora gave an oral recitation to the students after the brief overview about the topic to identify whether they learned something or not. But it is not recorded so that they could identify who could understand better, who are the best speaker, who are not able to understand, and who are not participating due to the nervousness and anxiety. The fifth is the observation and self-report. These are useful supplementary assessment methods when used in conjunction with the oral questioning and oral test. Like for example, in a school clinic setting, the nurse gave you a checklist of how are you feeling to identify if the students have a COVID or not. So after answering the survey, the nurse would ask you a simple questions about your answer on the survey. If you answered yes, like if you have a cough, the nurse would say, when did it start, where did you go, and etc.
Good day, everyone. I am Johnel Dimco, and I will be the last reporter for this group. My topic will be about selecting and developing appropriate assessment methods. So in our current K-12 curriculum, we have given importance not just to the cognitive domains of our students, but also the psychomotor and the affective domains as well. So that's why we are here to discuss the how to determine these affective factors of the affective domains of our students. And we have already known from the previous reporters several factors that affect the affective domains of our students. And now we are going to determine in selecting, to select and develop these assessment tools. So there's two methods in selecting our appropriate assessment methods. The first one is observation. So in brief, this is the teacher themselves who observe the students in actuality. So if the teacher is in a classroom setting, they observe how the students are, how they act, and how their behaviors are. So it is just the teachers gaining information on how the students act and feel and behave in the classroom setting without any input from the students like verbally, but only through their actions and their emotions. So the second of which is questioning. So the teachers ask the questions to the students and they respond. So in this way, the teachers can have a one-to-one talk with the students to ask them directly how their behaviors are, uh, how they act, how they do, how they behave in a certain manner. So those are the two types, two methods in selecting our appropriate assessment methods. And so we will be going to the development of effective assessment tools. So in this part, we have three tools according to Macmillan in 2007. So the first of which is student self-report. So in this method, the students themselves give input to their affective behaviors, the their affective factors to the teacher by themselves. So it is the student themselves who report to the teacher about their behaviors and how they act, how they feel, how they behave. It is not necessarily direct to the point uh, to let the students be caught off guard, but in a way that the students themselves can assess how they behave in certain situations. So with this, student self-report actually, uh, if we will be combining it all together, it just sounds like a it is essentially makes you think about a survey, um, just like what we do in research. We have the Likert scale where the respondents themselves check uh, in what degree they feel about this statement or about that statement, if they strongly agree or disagree. It's just basically the one of the types of student self-report. The students themselves check what behaviors they are in, how they react to the situation, how if they are they can connect to that behavior, so they put extremely agree, but if not, well, disagree. So that is just one example. However, there are more examples of student self-report. We have the constructive response format. In this type, the students are given a example situation. So, like for example, this student um, made did something bad, but for for that student, what he did was right. So, how do you respond to this? But in a constructive response format, the students reply with an essay. So if they're given this situation, they should respond in an essay manner. So they can explain why did they agree to this or not, or how do they respond to that situation. So this is an constructive response format. It is a by the means of an essay, essentially. And the next type is the selective response format. This is typically seen in ESP exams where the students are given sample situations. Like for example, just like the situation earlier, this student did this, but he thinks this is right for him. So how do you respond to that? Do you agree or not to what he did? So typically the responses say yes because this and that, no because this and that, yes because and so on and so forth. So these responses um, might be correct for the respondent. However, in this situation, the students are or the respondents are given to the freedom to choose what answer is the best for them. So, like for example, there are multiple answers that he feels correct. However, they should just pick one. So in this situation, they pick the thing or the answer that is most likely they um, they feel like that is the best answer. So that is the selected response format. They are given a sample situation just like in a constructive response format. However, they are given a bunch of um, uh, choices to pick, and then they essentially pick the best answer for them. So this is just typically a multiple choice quiz. However, this objective assessment, this selective response format determines their assessment affective domain. So we have gone from the student self-report. Now let's go to the teacher observation. So unlike what we have at the students' self-report, where essentially the students themselves give their responses or the report about their behavior. In this type, the teacher observation, the teachers themselves give out their observations. They observe directly the students for themselves. So just like what we have earlier, in selecting appropriate assessment methods, the teachers themselves are the ones who initiate the questioning, the observation of the students. It's not the students themselves, but it is the teacher. So it helps the teachers determine their the behaviors of the students in this situation. So, for example, the teachers observe his or her students in a classroom setting. One particular scenario would be uh, the the first um, during the first classes, if the students will go to school early or not. So the teacher observes who are the students that arrive early and those who arrive late. So that is one example of teacher observation. Or it can be that the teacher it can be the teacher determines what behaviors the students concur or occur. So it's not just necessarily negative always, but also the positive sides, or maybe those complex sides. Like for example, this may determine in the teacher's observation, the teacher may observe one student is having actually depression at most, or anxiety in their classes. So teacher observation helps the teacher essentially in observing what the students manifest in their behaviors. So there are two types of this. We have the unstructured and the structured observation. This typically means in an unstructured way, the teachers just observe the students in a direct manner. There's no structured format on how these teachers should do it. He or she just determines or just observes the student directly. So it's just what maybe the teachers do every day. If he sees one late, that's already an observation that one student is late. So it's basically again just the teacher observing the students directly. And in unstructured observation, this is different from unstructured because they are given the materials or already the factors for the teachers uh, to observe, to record what needs to be observed. One example, if some may recall, is um, the learning. I think the behaviors uh, the students are showing in their in their classrooms. I forgot that name, but in our form 138, or the sorry, I forgot, in our cards, in our quarterly cards, or our grades that are given at the back. Maybe in elementary, we are given a bunch of the teachers give remarks on how the students are, or how the students behave in the classroom. That's already an example of an observation from the teacher. There is one in elementary that the teachers themselves write what the students are in the classroom. Like for example, the teacher may write this student is very well behaved, or the student is very observant in classroom. However, he or she gets distracted easily. So that's just one example of an observation from the teacher. And so this enables in the report card, in this report card, for the parents to know how the students behave in the classroom, because the parents can't actually go in the classroom and observe their children during class hours. So it's the teachers themselves who need to notify the their parents on how their children are in the classroom. So the example of just giving the teachers giving an observation of their students in the back of that report card is it's an example of an unstructured observation, since by quarter the teacher just writes what they observe or what their concerns are. However, in I think it's in high school where the format is changed. So there are behavioral observations that are given in the back of the report card. It is grouped as makadiyos, makabayan, makatao, makabansa, at makakalikasan. So these five are from the DepEd's, I think, core values. So in this example, in high school, the teachers determine if these students observe these core values the most. So the teachers just they're given a scale. So if this factor, if this value, if this behavior is does the student always observe this or rarely observe this. But sometimes the teachers just get too, I think, too lazy to answer this, so they just put it always observe in that part. So that was unstructured observation and structured observation in the parts of the the teacher's observation. So we have those two types, the student self-report and the teacher's observation. We have the third type, which is peer ratings. This is included as a way to, as a tool to determine student behavior, an effective assessment tool. However, this is the least common method, or maybe the least recommended, because the teachers let the students rate their peers, so to speak. So they rate their classmates. Maybe this is applicable in some group activities where the teachers are giving the leaders of each group leeway to observe and rate their group mates according to what they have, if they are they cooperate in the group or they're helpful in the group. So it's basically just like that. However, there are problems with this, basically because it invites biases in parts of the students, because maybe this one leader doesn't like his or her groupmates, so he will just rate them in a low score. So basically, just this is not common. However, this may be helpful in determining for the teacher's part if there are, yes, if there are certain biases, or how these students see or look their classmates in a sense, so that, well, you can know, this student has a grudge on someone in the classroom, so I really need to take note of this. So that is an example of peer ratings. So essentially we have three again. We have the student self-report, the teacher's observation, and the peer ratings. So those are the three effective assessment tools to use. So now we will be going to interpretation and utilization of these different methods. So now, in choosing for which method or methods to use, we need to consider these three factors. First off, the type of effect that needs to be assessed. So this if you will select a tool, you need to know what effect you need to assess, so that in order to for you to check what needs to be observed. So, like for example, if you just want to determine the students who are late or not, then you just you pick what methods is applicable. Or for example, if you want to determine the students' cooperation in a group, or in uh, their performance in a class, or if they are very motivated or not in listening to the classes. So you need to determine what type of effect you need to observe or assess in order to pick which method is applicable. So that's the first. The second is if the information needed is from grouped or individual responses. So in this scenario, we can use the example from a group. When you will group, the teachers will group the students in a performance task, and then the teachers determine these groups if they are cooperative or not, or if they manifest any uh, cooperation or goodwill towards each other. So you can use a group or response for that type. However, if you want to determine how the behaviors of students, or how the students are motivated in a classroom, you can you cannot just simply make them answer that in a group, because they might be shy to say that or something. Or for example, a sensitive topic is anxiety about among students. If you will, if the teachers will determine this response by groups, the students who have anxiety cannot answer directly, because yes, he or she has anxiety, so how can she or answer in that sense? So it needs you need to determine if this affective domain, if they can be grouped or in determined individually, so that we can determine we can have accurate results in that sense. And it also guarantees anonymity, or the students can be anonymous in answering their these responses in a sense. So for example, that those who are um, have anxiety in their part. And so lastly, we have the use of information. So now we have determined what type of effect to be observed, and then how should how should they be observed, if by group or by individually, and then you have already compiled the results. What do you do with that information? Maybe you'll just simply put in a logbook and then send it to the principal, just that, without any use for that. It's just it's just wasteful, because this information in determining our affected domain, it can be useful for us teachers to help these students in a way, because as teachers, as we already know, we are the second parents of our students in the classroom. We double time on what we do in the classroom. We are not just teachers, but also their friends, their family, and basically their parents. So in a way, we can't just teach them cognitively in the cognitive sense. But in our current setting, unlike the ones before the K-12 program, now we are giving importance to the other domains as well. So it is helpful for us to determine the affective domains of the students in order for us to help them in a way. So basically, that that is what our uh, that is what our mission is as teachers. We do not just educate the minds, but also we educate the heart. So it is important for us that uh, in determining their affective domain, we help them. It not just also helps us in the short term because uh, we are just a temporary teachers for them, maybe in 1 or 2 years, but also it helps them in the long run if we take action or we help them in that manner. So those are that's the the gist of the affective domains on how on what those factors are, on how do we what are the tools to be used or the factors to be used, and how do we select and develop these selective tools in order for us to gain knowledge on their affective domains. So thank you very much.